My love, I need to tell you something. And I need you to promise you won't misunderstand it before I've had the chance to fully explain. I'm nervous about marrying you. Not because of doubt, not because I'm unsure about you, but for a reason I don't think you're expecting. A reason that might actually surprise you once I explain it fully. So stay with me, please, because this isn't the kind of nervousness that should scare either of us. It's actually proof of something beautiful. I think about how people usually assume nervousness before marriage comes from uncertainty, from second guessing whether you're making the right choice. That's not what this is. I've never been more certain of anything than I am of choosing you. My nervousness comes from somewhere else entirely, somewhere deeper, somewhere I've had to sit with quietly before I felt ready to explain it to you clearly. Stay with me, because there's more I need to say. I think about how much weight the word forever actually carries once you say it seriously, once you mean it completely, instead of using it casually the way people sometimes do. I've said forever before in smaller ways, about smaller things, without fully understanding what the word demands. But saying it about you, about us, about a life built entirely around choosing each other every single day for the rest of our lives, that kind of forever feels enormous. And I think that enormity is exactly what's making me nervous. Not because I doubt it, but because I understand fully, for the first time, how much I actually mean it. I think that's the shock, my love. My nervousness isn't hesitation. It's the exact opposite. It's the weight of realizing how much this actually matters to me. How much I have to lose if I don't show up for it the way it deserves. Stay with me, because there's still more unfolding. I think about the responsibility of becoming someone's entire partner, not just their boyfriend, not just someone they date casually, but someone who stands beside them through every version of life still ahead. The good years and the hard ones, the healthy years and the difficult ones, the moments neither of us can predict yet. I think about how much I want to be equal to that responsibility, and how nervous I am about making sure I actually am, not just today but every day moving forward. I think about how easy it would be to enter marriage carelessly, assuming love alone is enough, without also committing to the ongoing effort real partnership requires. I don't want to enter this carelessly, my love. I want to enter it fully aware of everything it's asking of me, and that awareness, that seriousness, is part of what's making my hands feel a little unsteady, even as my heart feels completely certain. You stay with me, because there's more I need you to hear. I think about my own fears of falling short, not because I doubt my love for you, but because I know love alone doesn't guarantee perfect execution. I think about the moments I might disappoint you, despite my best intentions, the times patience might run thin, the days I might not show up exactly the way you need. I think about how nervous that possibility makes me, not enough to make me hesitate, but enough to make me take this seriously, instead of assuming everything will simply work itself out without effort. I think that's part of the shock too. My nervousness isn't about you, it's about my own commitment to being worthy of you, consistently, not just during the wedding day itself, but across every single ordinary day that follows it. Stay with me, because there's still more sitting in my chest. I think about the specific fear of change, not fear that our love will change for the worse, but fear of the unknown shape it will eventually take. Right now, our relationship exists in a version I understand deeply. Marriage introduces new dynamics, new pressures, new responsibilities. Neither of us has fully experienced yet. I think about how nervous that unknown makes me, not because I doubt we'll navigate it well, but because navigating anything unfamiliar naturally comes with some uncertainty, even when you're certain about the person you're navigating it with. I think about how important it feels to admit that, honestly, instead of pretending complete fearlessness. Because I believe real intimacy requires admitting fear sometimes, not hiding behind confidence that isn't entirely accurate. Stay with me, because there's more I need to share. I think about the fear of losing the version of us that exists right now, the specific rhythm we've built together, even while looking forward to whatever new rhythm marriage will eventually create. I think about how strange it is to simultaneously look forward to something and feel nervous about the change it represents, wanting the future deeply while still holding a quiet tenderness for exactly what we have in this current moment. I think that's a normal tension, my love, wanting growth while still honoring what currently exists. And I don't think acknowledging that tension diminishes how much I want to marry you. If anything, it proves how much I value every version of us, past, present, and whatever comes next. Willow, stay with me because there's still more unfolding. I think about the promises marriage actually asks you to make. Not the poetic version people say during ceremonies, but the daily, unglamorous version those promises actually require once the ceremony ends. I think about choosing patience during difficult seasons, choosing honesty during uncomfortable conversations, choosing presence during periods when presence feels hard to give. I think about how nervous I am about consistently living up to those promises, not because I doubt my intention, but because I understand intention alone isn't always enough without deliberate continued effort. I think that nervousness is actually respect, my love. Respect for how seriously I'm taking this commitment. Respect for how much I don't want to treat marriage casually, assuming it will simply sustain itself without ongoing care. Just stay with me, because there's more I need you to hear. I think about my own family, the models of marriage I witnessed growing up, some healthy, some complicated, and how those examples shaped what I both hope for and fear regarding my own future marriage. I think about wanting desperately to build something different from whatever difficult patterns I witnessed, while also feeling nervous about whether I have the tools to actually accomplish that, or whether some of those patterns might unconsciously repeat themselves despite my best intentions. I think that's part of the vulnerability I haven't fully admitted until tonight. The fear that good intentions alone might not be enough to override deeply ingrained patterns, and the nervousness that comes with wanting to break cycles I witnessed without fully knowing yet if I'm capable of doing so successfully. Stay with me, because there's still more sitting in my heart. I think about gratitude despite all this nervousness. Gratitude that you're the person I get to feel nervous about in the first place. Gratitude that this fear comes from caring too much rather than caring too little. I think about how much worse it would be to feel nothing at all. To enter marriage casually without any weight or seriousness attached to the decision. I think about how this nervousness, shocking as it might sound, explain this honestly, actually proves something important. It proves I'm not taking you or this commitment lightly. It proves I understand the magnitude of what I'm asking for when I ask you to marry me. And if you're still here, still listening, still feeling everything I've confessed tonight, I need you to know there's still more unfolding inside me, more of this vulnerable honesty I still need you to understand, especially now, especially as I prepare to ask you to build a forever with me, nervous hands and completely certain heart, exactly the way I'm choosing you right now. My love, thank you for staying with me through all of that, because there's more I need to say, a softer layer underneath the nervousness I already confessed. Something that I think will help you understand this even more clearly. I think about the specific moment I knew I wanted to marry you. Not a single dramatic instant, but a slow accumulation of ordinary moments that eventually became undeniable. I think about a quiet evening where nothing significant happened, no grand gesture, no special occasion, just you laughing at something small, completely unguarded, and something in me settled so deeply that I knew, without needing further proof, that this was the person I wanted beside me for the rest of my life. I think about how unremarkable that moment probably looked from the outside, and how enormous it actually felt on the inside. I think that's part of what makes this nervousness feel so strange to sit with. The certainty came quietly, gently, without fanfare, But the nervousness arrived loudly once I let myself fully imagine what acting on that certainty actually requires. Stay with me, because there's more I need to say. I think about the difference between wanting to marry someone and being ready to actually become their husband. Two things I used to assume were the same, but now understand are actually different layers of the same decision. Wanting is easy. Wanting doesn't ask anything of you yet, but becoming, actually stepping into the daily responsibility of partnership, that's the part that makes my hands feel unsteady even while my heart stays completely certain. I think about how much I want to be ready for that becoming, not just today, but every day that follows it, and how nervous I am about making sure my actions consistently match the depth of what I already feel for you. Stay with me, because there's still more unfolding. I think about the quiet weight of wanting to build something different, something healthier, something more intentional than patterns I might have unconsciously absorbed simply from being human and imperfect. I think about how much I want our marriage to be a place where both of us feel safe enough to be fully honest, fully imperfect, fully human, without fear of judgment or abandonment. I think about how nervous I am about building that safety consistently, especially during moments when it would be easier to retreat into old, less vulnerable habits. I think that nervousness actually reflects how much I respect what real partnership requires. Not a passive assumption that love alone sustains everything, but an active commitment to keep choosing vulnerability, honesty, and presence, especially when those things feel difficult to offer. Stay with me, because there's more I need you to hear. I think about the specific fear of disappointing you, not through some dramatic failure, but through the slow accumulation of small oversights, the kind that happen gradually if you're not paying careful attention. I think about wanting to remain as attentive to you 5 years into marriage, as I am right now, 10 years in, 20 years in, and how nervous I am about maintaining that attentiveness once routine settles in, once the initial newness fades into something more familiar. I think about how many marriages struggle not because love disappears, but because attention does. Because people stop actively choosing each other and start assuming the relationship will simply sustain itself without ongoing effort. I don't want that to happen to us, my love. I want to keep choosing you actively, deliberately, for as long as we're given together. Stay with me, because there's still more sitting in my chest. I think about the specific promises I want to make to you, beyond the traditional vows people repeat during ceremonies. I promise to keep noticing you, actively, even after familiarity settles in. I promise to keep having hard conversations, instead of avoiding them for the sake of temporary comfort. I promise to keep choosing patience, especially during moments when patience feels difficult to access. I promise to keep growing alongside you, instead of expecting you to remain static while I evolve. I think those specific promises matter more to me than the general poetic version people often focus on. Because they're the promises that actually determine whether a marriage thrives or simply survives. Stay with me, because there's more I need to share. I think about the vulnerability required to admit nervousness this openly, especially as someone who's usually expected to appear confident, especially heading into a moment that's supposed to feel purely joyful without complication. I think about how much courage it takes to say honestly that joy and nervousness can coexist, that wanting something deeply doesn't erase the natural fear that comes with committing to something this significant. I think that's part of why I needed you to hear this explained fully, my love. So you understand that my nervousness isn't hesitation about you. It's reverence for what we're building together, respect for how seriously I'm taking this decision, honesty about the weight I feel carrying it responsibly. Stay with me, because there's still more unfolding. I think about what marriage actually represents beyond the ceremony itself. Not a single moment of celebration, but an ongoing daily practice of choosing partnership deliberately, day after day, year after year, through every version of life that unfolds ahead of us. I think about how much I want to embrace that daily practice fully, not just the exciting parts, but the mundane, ordinary parts too. The ones that don't get celebrated publicly, but actually build the foundation of a lasting marriage. I think about grocery shopping together on ordinary Saturdays, working through disagreements honestly instead of avoiding them, supporting each other through career changes and family challenges, and everything else life inevitably brings. I think about how much meaning exists in those unremarkable moments, and how nervous, in the best possible way, I am about honoring that meaning consistently. Stay with me, because there's more I need you to hear. I think about gratitude again, returning steadily beneath all of this vulnerability. I'm grateful that you're the person I get to feel this nervous, careful, intentional love for. I'm grateful that this nervousness comes from taking our future seriously rather than approaching it carelessly. I'm grateful more than anything that despite the weight of everything marriage requires, I've never once doubted that you're exactly who I want to build that future with. I think about how this nervousness, shocking as it might have sounded at first, actually reveals something reassuring underneath it. It reveals depth, seriousness, respect for what we're choosing to build together. It reveals that I'm not entering this lightly, but with complete awareness of everything it asks of me, and a genuine commitment to rising to meet it every single day. Stay with me a little longer, because there's still more sitting in my heart. I think about the future ahead, still unknown in its exact shape, but grounded now in something steadier than blind hope. I think about facing whatever comes, the easy seasons and the harder ones, the celebrations and the challenges, together, honestly, imperfectly, but completely devoted to continuing to choose each other. And if you're still here, still listening, still holding everything I've shared tonight somewhere close to your heart, I need you to know there's still more unfolding inside me. More of this honest, nervous, completely certain love I still need you to understand. Especially now, especially as I prepare my whole heart to ask you to build forever with me. Glyson, I think about the specific image I keep returning to when I imagine our wedding day, not the details of the venue or the guests or anything logistical, but the moment right before I see you standing there, waiting, feeling my heart pound in a way that has nothing to do with doubt and everything to do with anticipation. I think about how nervous I imagine feeling in that exact moment, and how I've come to realize that nervousness and readiness aren't opposites at all. They can exist together, side by side, each one making the other feel more real. I think about how strange it would be if I felt nothing standing there waiting for you, if the moment felt casual instead of monumental. The nervousness itself is proof that this matters as much as I say it does. If I felt calm and unshaken about something this significant, I think that would actually concern me more than feeling nervous does. Stay with me, because there's more I need to say. I think about the specific vow I want to make silently to myself before I ever say anything out loud to you. A private commitment that exists underneath the public one. I promise myself I'll keep choosing honesty, even when honesty feels risky. I promise myself I'll keep choosing humility, admitting when I'm wrong instead of protecting my ego at the expense of our connection. I promise myself I'll keep choosing curiosity about you, refusing to assume I already know everything there is to know, staying open to discovering new layers of who you are, for as long as we're together. Well, I think those private promises matter as much as anything I'll say publicly, because they're the ones that actually shape how I show up for you daily, long after the ceremony itself becomes a memory. Stay with me, because there's still more unfolding. I think about the specific fear of becoming complacent, of assuming that once we're married, the active effort of pursuing each other naturally decreases. I've heard people talk about relationships settling into routine after marriage, and I understand why that happens, but I don't want it to happen to us without a fight. I think about how nervous I am about actively resisting that complacency, making sure I keep pursuing you intentionally even after the newness of marriage settles into something more familiar. I want to keep making, remembering the things that matter to you, checking in genuinely instead of just going through familiar motions, making sure you always know you're still being chosen actively, not just assumed as a permanent fixture that no longer requires intentional attention. Stay with me, because there's more I need you to hear. I think about the vulnerability of admitting that I don't have this all figured out perfectly. That marriage is something I'm approaching with genuine humility rather than false confidence. I think about how much easier it might be to simply present unwavering certainty, to hide the nervousness beneath a calm, composed exterior. But I don't want to build our marriage on that kind of performance. I want to build it on honesty, even when honesty means admitting fear alongside excitement. I think that honesty matters more to me than appearing perfectly put together, because I believe real intimacy requires exactly this kind of vulnerability, the willingness to be seen fully, uncertainty included, trusting that you'll meet that vulnerability with understanding instead of judgment. Stay with me, because there's still more sitting in my chest. Or think about what I hope our marriage actually looks like day to day. Not the wedding itself, but the thousands of ordinary days that follow it. I think about mornings where we're both a little rushed, evenings where we're both a little tired, disagreements that need working through, celebrations that deserve full presence, quiet moments that don't require anything except simply existing beside each other. I think about how much I want to show up fully for all of those ordinary moments, not just the significant ones. Because I believe marriage is actually built more in the ordinary than in the extraordinary. More in the daily consistency than in the occasional grand gesture. Tomatum emotional occasions. Stay with me because there's more I need to share. I want you to know that nervousness doesn't mean uncertainty about you. It means I understand fully what I'm asking for when I ask you to marry me, and I'm taking that request as seriously as it deserves to be taken. I want you to know that beneath every nervous feeling I've described tonight, there exists an unshakable certainty about one specific thing. You are who I want beside me, through everything still ahead of us. I think that certainty is the steady ground underneath all this nervous honesty. The foundation that makes the nervousness feel worth sitting with, instead of running from. Stay with me, because there's still more unfolding. I think about gratitude, persistent and deep, for having someone worth feeling this nervous about. Someone whose future alongside me matters enough to take this seriously, instead of approaching it carelessly. I think about how grateful I am that you've stayed through this entire confession, listening patiently as I work through layer after layer of honest vulnerability. I think about how that patience itself says something important about what our marriage will actually be like, built on this exact kind of mutual patience, mutual honesty, mutual willingness to sit with difficult, vulnerable conversations instead of avoiding them. Stay with me a little longer, because there's still more sitting in my heart. I think about the future waiting for us, still unwritten in its exact details, but grounded now in something real, something honest, something built on genuine reflection rather than assumed certainty. I think about facing that future together, nervous hands included, hearts completely devoted, choosing each other deliberately every single day that unfolds ahead of us. And if you're still here, still listening, still holding everything I've shared tonight somewhere close to your heart, I need you to know there's still more unfolding inside me. More of this honest, nervous, deeply certain love. I still need you to understand, especially now, especially as I prepare to ask you the most important question I'll ever ask anyone, with a heart that's never been more sure. Even while my hands stay a little unsteady, I think about the people who will stand around us on that day, watching, celebrating, and how strange it is that even surrounded by everyone who loves us, the only person I'll actually be nervous about is you. The only opinion that will matter in that moment is yours. The only face I'll be searching for the second I'm allowed to look up. I think about how everything else, the noise, the logistics, the celebration itself, will probably fade into the background the instant I see you, and how that focus, that narrowing down to just us in a room full of people, is exactly what I imagine marriage actually being like too. A world full of noise and demands and distractions, and somehow in the middle of it still choosing to focus on you. Stay with me because there's more I need to say. I think about the specific kind of nervousness that comes from wanting something to go right. Not because you're unsure of the outcome, but because the outcome matters so much you can't help feeling the weight of it. I think about studying for an important exam you're actually prepared for, or stepping onto a stage for something you've practiced endlessly. The nervousness in those moments doesn't come from doubt, it comes from care. And that's exactly the kind of nervousness I feel about marrying you. The kind that exists precisely because I cared this much about getting it right. Wrong. I think about how I'd rather feel this nervous, caring version of anticipation than the hollow, careless version some people feel when they're not fully invested in what they're walking toward. I'd rather my hands shake a little because this matters than stay perfectly steady because it doesn't. Stay with me because there's still more unfolding. I think about the quiet relief of finally saying all of this out loud, instead of carrying it silently. The way explaining nervousness honestly somehow makes it lighter to hold. I think about how much I needed you to understand this before the day actually arrives, so that when you see my hands unsteady, when you notice my voice catch a little, you'll know exactly what that means. Not hesitation, not doubt. Just love taken seriously enough to make me tremble a little under its weight. I think about how much I want you to feel safe seeing that version of me, the nervous version, the imperfect version, because I think real intimacy means letting someone witness you fully, not just the composed, confident parts, but the parts that shake a little too. Stay with me, because there's more I need you to hear. I think about what I hope you'll remember about this conversation. Long after tonight, long after the wedding day itself becomes a memory, instead of an anticipated future. I hope you'll remember that my nervousness was never about you specifically, never about doubting this choice, but always about the depth of my commitment to honoring it properly. I hope you'll remember that even trembling hands can hold on to certainty, that fear and readiness aren't opposites, that they can exist together, each one making the other feel more real. I think about how much I want our marriage to be built on this kind of honest foundation, one where nervousness doesn't need to be hidden, where vulnerability is welcomed instead of avoided, where both of us feel safe enough to admit uncertainty about the unknown, while remaining completely certain about each other. Stay with me, because there's still more sitting in my chest. I think about gratitude one final time tonight, deep and quiet, for having found someone worth feeling this nervous about. Someone whose future beside me matters enough to approach with this much care and honesty instead of careless confidence. I think about how grateful I am, even now, even mid-confession, that you've stayed to hear every layer of this patiently, without needing me to simplify or soften any of it. I think that patience says everything about what kind of marriage we're building already, long before the ceremony itself even happens. A marriage built on staying, on listening, on choosing honesty over performance, again and again, exactly the way we've been choosing it tonight. And if you're still here, still holding everything I've confessed close to your heart, I need you to know there's still more unfolding inside me. More of this nervous, certain, completely devoted love. I still need you to understand, especially now, especially as I get closer to asking you the one question that's been quietly forming inside me for longer than I've had the courage to admit out loud until tonight.